Sometimes in photography you take a gamble and it doesn't pay off, and then there are other times when you take a gamble, take a punt on something, you take a chance somewhere you've never been, and it pays off. Checking the tide table this morning was one of the most important things that I could have done. Now, because we're at low tide, and in Pembrokeshire I went on a seal safari earlier on this year, and I learned that the tide table in this part of the world, this part of the Welsh coast, I think is it's got the second highest swing in the world. I think there's only Canada that's got a higher tide table. So what that actually means is that the tide can change by about, I think it's about 5 meters or something, don't quote me on that, but basically if I was stood exactly where I am in about 3-4 hours time, I'd be completely underwater. So you've got to be very careful and selective when doing some seascapes. Like I was saying, sometimes you take a gamble on a place and you don't really know until you get here what it's going to be like. And my job now is to try and find a composition. Now, I'd be a fool if I didn't compose something with these church doors in it. So I've got to find a place where not only I can show off the church doors, but also I get some perspective and I get some interest, namely the sea, in my shot, which is not easy. So my problem this morning is, maybe I'm blessed with a little bit too much time, because after reading the tide table and I saw that at 7 o'clock it was low tide, I thought by getting here for 8 o'clock should be able to shoot. But obviously the whole point of me coming down here is that I want to shoot the church doors, because that's the whole point of coming to this cove. But the tide is still, it's not coming as much as I would like, because what I would like in an ideal world is the waves sort of hugging the feet of the church doors, so I can get a nice S-curve or maybe a panorama of pretty much where I'm stood now. That would be what I would like. But it looks like I'm just going to have to wait a little bit, just for half an hour or so the tide can come in a little bit further and I can get my shot. Until then, I'm going to have a little look up and see if I can see any other locations that would, maybe look quite cool from above. But so far this place is absolutely amazing, and if you ever find yourself in Pembrokeshire, Church Doors Cove, remember that. We've decided that it's going to be best to have a little walk up and down the cliff, because waiting here is like waiting for Godot here. It's like waiting for something that might never come. So by the time the shot comes, it could be pouring with rain, who knows. So to save waiting and potentially being disappointed, we may as well get active and get up the cliff and try and find some new viewpoints. Plus, I've just told Laura that she can go and sit in the car, and she was like, well, I don't want to go and sit in the car for 2 hours. Do you? So it's all about compromise photography. I'm not quite sure what to do. I'm in two minds, because we've hiked up this cliff top to look back at Church Doors, which is just over my left shoulder, and there's a lovely little beach over the other side which I don't quite know how to get to. So if anybody knows the area, please let me know, because that looks like an awesome beach to have to yourself, because there's no one around today. So as I was saying, I don't quite know what to do, because I don't really want to use the big stopper, because obviously it might not be worth it. But do I just do it? Do I bite my nose to spite my face? Maybe I do, because there's not a lot of action in the water today. It's a really calm day. It's like a mill pond out there, so we might not even get that much of a nice effect on the big stopper anyway. But because I'm stubborn, I'm here, I'm going to take a shot. Okay, that looks quite good. Composition looks a little bit top heavy, so I might just go again so I can see a little bit more of the sky. So I'm just going to lift it up a touch, because I know that I'm composed left to right is good. I'm just going to lift up the composition I'm going to go again. There's a couple of people on the beach as well. It looks like they're moving, which helps, because with a prolonged shutter, any movement is pretty much blurred out. There's a couple of people that are posing for a photo, so I might have to see to clone them out. But I don't think that's going to cause me any problems. You can always clone out quite easily when you're working with textures such as rocks, bricks, that sort of thing. When things are patterned, then it gets a little bit tricky. But in this instance, I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, that looks much better. I'm going to do one more shot, and I'm going to stop my ISO down a little bit so I can underexpose, so I don't blow any highlights. And then we'll be on to the next shot. So I'm going to go to ISO 250. And then I think I will have worked this location as much as I can. And then it's downstairs, church doors, coffee, chill out. So what am I doing in Pembrokeshire? Well, a few months ago, earlier this summer, I did a wedding for a couple named Charlotte and Dave, who own a house in Narberth, which is in Pembrokeshire, and the house became available, and they've said that to me and Laura that we could stay. But incidentally, in that wedding, I took probably what is one of the most brilliant photographs I've ever made. The timing of it was genius. The groom's brother's phone went off in the middle of the reception, and I've just got the funniest, most embarrassed red tomato face of the groom's brother. So I will never forget that. So I've made it down to the beach, and yep, the tide's come in, which is really good. But what I didn't anticipate is just how slippery these rocks are, these boulders. And it kind of goes without saying, you're probably watching this thinking, yeah, you idiot, what you're doing? These rocks are under the sea half the time. But you've really got to be careful. So there's only so close that I can get. So what I've decided to do is a couple of long exposures again. I've got the big stopper out. I'm shooting at f8 because I know that with this lens it's going to give me the sharpest results. And I've got a 30-second exposure as well, and I'm just going to have a look back at that. Yeah, that looks really good. I'm just going to change my composition slightly, and I've done a vertical panorama of the beach. You know, 5 or 6 different shots, but I'm not sure how that's going to come out. So I'm just going to cover my tracks by doing a few more shots. I'm going to up my ISO 500 because I'm shooting the opposite way this time. I wasn't there shooting this way. You'll notice that I have to work quickly. Now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make the decision to get rid of the big stopper because I feel like it's actually just getting in the way. What I'm going to do, hang on, can you see me? I'm going to get rid of the big stopper, and I'm going to go down to about 1/10 of a second. And that should give me a nice, what's that word where swell of the sea when it's the foamy whiteness. I'm not quite sure. You know, that start comes in, then it gets dragged back out again. I want to try and capture that. And I think what I was doing with the long exposures as well, I was losing a bit of contrast and a bit of colour in the sky. I know it's very overcast today. The last thing I want to do is blow my highlights. And the last thing I ever want to do is drop in a blue sky or a new sky, because you can't do that with landscape photography, because that is cheating. So I'm going to call this my final shot. And what I want to do is find a flat rock where I can rest the tripod, because I don't trust the sand. And I'm going to try and expose for about 1/10 of a second. So it's going to be quite a quick exposure in relative terms. So I'm going to try and find a bit of foreground interest, which is important. And obviously I want to frame up the church doors as well. So I think I'm going to go here. I'm going to go nice and low. And hope to God that I can correct this in post, because I'm a little bit wonky. Right, that's a bit too quick. So I'm going to go 1 second, ISO 100, f16. No good. Didn't frame at the doors. So let me just get myself on live view. Okay, so if I go here, this rock could work. It's going to lift up a little bit. A bit overexposed there. Wait till the wave comes. 1 2-second timer, so I've got to predict it. Here we go. Cool. Okay, I'm going to go even longer now. I'm going to go up to f20. 1 second exposure. you pixel peepers out there, I know you'll be thinking, well, why is he shooting at such a high aperture number? Well, it's because I want to expose for longer, and I know that I'm well aware that quality can suffer at the aperture numbers, the narrower the aperture. But you know what? I'd rather have the longer shutter speed available, so that's the reason I do that. Oh, that looks pretty sexy. So it's just a case of timing it right. Here, this looks like a bit decent wave. Yep, cool. Okay, now something that's become a little common theme of mine these days, I'm going to try and shoot a portrait of myself in every landscape that I go to, where I can. So I've got a little frame, and I'm going to just stand in frame and look wondrously at this amazing landscape.
Buscando su gol número 40 en la Liga BBVA, le va a pegar Cristiano, pierna derecha, gol. Gol del Real Madrid, el tercero Cristiano.
I think I've finished in this location. Absolutely stunning beach, if any of you ever get the chance to head down here. Church Doors Cove, it's quite simply called. Quite near Scrinkle Haven, which always tickles me, Scrinkle Haven. Yeah, that last shot I'm quite pleased with. I've just looked back at it and I look so small. I mean, anyone who knows me knows how tiny I am. I make Tom Cruise look like the Mountain from Game of Thrones. But the idea of these little sort of selfies or putting myself in the landscapes I've had, I guess is just trying to show how finite we all are and how much the landscape really is the winner, because it's been around a lot longer than us. Great decision to let the tide come in. I always try and talk and walk at the same time, but I can't. So about an hour ago, I told Laura to go and chill in the car, because I said I'd be about 5 minutes. And she's not very happy. Here she is, she's smiling. Doghouse.